this new topic that we're going to be starting. How have anthropologists, specifically cultural ones, theorized about societies being so different? And we're going to look at both the history of anthropology up to contemporary day. Not a lot of the history. And the history of anthropology does not have humble origins. In the early in the early 19th century, the 19th century, early 20th century, people are traveling around the world because of advances in travel, colonialism, missionization, and you have largely white Westerners coming into contact with other groups of people that look and behave extremely different from one another. And so early anthropologists theorized that not only do these people look very different, they also behave very different. And maybe we can explain the behavioral, the cultural differences in terms of the biology. And the main concept they tried to apply to explain human variation in behavior was this idea of biological race. In my classes, I used to show these maps and we'd break into groups. And the goal was, tell me how many races are represented on the map, which shows gradients in skin color. It's skin color map, that's it. If you look at this other map of UV radiation, you'll notice that where UV radiation is most intense, that's where melanin is higher, that causes the dark pigmentation in your skin, and where it's less intense, skin tends to get lighter and lighter. And so when we did the exercise, students would come up with all sorts of numbers, 1 race, 5 races, 55, 99. And not only students with different maps would come up with different numbers, but even with the same map, students would come up with different numbers. The reason for that is that race is not a biological concept, and therefore it can't be objectively identified because it doesn't exist as biology. Don't be mistaken. Race is very, very real, but not in the way that most people think about it. It is not biology. It is not genetic. That's skin color. But through the labeling and the categorization of different racial groups, through that social inequality, that poverty, that lack of access to crucial resources, race actually can become manifest in people's biology through these health disparities. And so skin color is actually an adaptation to UV radiation. It's a trade-off between blocking out harmful radiation and also allowing enough in to still absorb vitamin D. We'll talk more about it next time. You're going to be watching a film, Race: The Power of an Illusion, that deals with this. And so these questions are up for you already. The question is race genetic, biological, or social? Why? What types of evidence support this? So there's lots of different things discussed in the film. Take some notes, and then you'll go fill out your film reflection. Just in regards to this first question, if race was objective, if it was biological, we should all be able to come up with the same number of races, but people cannot. The number changes from year to year, from person to person, from map to map, because race is not real, not in a biological sense. And so what types of evidence support this, that it's actually a social concept? There's lots of things they'll talk about. Even though it's social, how does it still have biological impacts, effects on people's health? And then this sort of last question, sort of concept of race or race when we talk about it. Because one, race is not biology. And so continuing to talk about it as such and saying race might tend to perpetuate that notion, rather than sort of saying the concept of race. This is for you to just kind of think about and reflect on after you've watched the film.